Glad to have you with us here on the Kansas City Chiefs Report. Tyler Jones here as we are looking at the offseason winners and losers for your Kansas City Chiefs. It's been an eventful offseason, to say the least. We will recap it all for you coming up and tell you who's trending upwards and who's trending downwards heading into the 2024 campaign on today's show. Before we do that, folks, if you want the Chiefs to repeat and make it 3 in a row, like the video. I have been told by the football gods that if we get 500 likes or more on today's video, that guarantees a third straight Super Bowl title for the Kansas City Chiefs. So do your part. Like the video. Don't jinx it. We'll get started with today's show. Let's begin with the man behind it all. General Manager Brett Veach is a big winner this offseason for Kansas City, and it just goes to show why this guy's the best general manager in all of football with what he's done with this team over the last few years, and to make this team that's already won back-to-back Super Bowls even better heading into 2024 just says a lot about the job that he's done. You look at, in particular, giving weapons for Patrick Mahomes in that receiving core, adding Xavier Worthy, adding Marquise Brown, and the only real noticeable loss is L'Jarius Sneed. Everywhere else, the Chiefs aren't in a situation where they're scratching their heads, if you will, wondering what we're going to do next. Even at the corner position, you still have Trent McDuffie, one of the best corners in all of football there. So you're going to be okay. Brett Veach, I thought, did a tremendous job when it came to the draft and what they did in free agency, giving Patrick Mahomes exactly what he needed on all fronts there. And they still have money to spend as well. I think that with the $16 million that the Kansas City Chiefs have at this point, I would expect Brett Veach to make at least one more move, maybe a couple more moves before this season begins to kind of shore up this roster and make sure they're A-OK, good to go. But the foundation's there. You took care of paying Chris Jones. We'll talk more about him coming up in just a bit. And of course, Kelsey and Mahomes aren't going anywhere. Life is good for Brett Veach, and we're certainly grateful to have him here in Kansas City. How would you grade the Chiefs offseason? What do you think of the job that Brett Veach and company did? It's our pinned comment today. Let us know what you think. A, B, C, D, or F. It's hard not to give this an A. I got to go with an A myself. Let us know in the comment section below. Let's go to the losers list now. You all knew it was coming. Rashee Rice is the first name on the losers list, coming off a very good rookie campaign. Rashee Rice right now is very lucky that this is not a lot worse, right? That he still has a job, that he still has a vote of confidence within the Chiefs organization. And I believe it was the right call to keep Rashee Rice around despite everything that's going on. Now, down the road, we could have a further discussion of whether you actually want to pay Rashee Rice and if you can trust him with big money. But at least on the rookie contract, you can deal with the circumstances because of the lack of money he's being paid and the production that he did put up, that it's still worth going through what he's been through. Let's go ahead and recap what we're talking about of what's going on with Rashee Rice. You go back to March 30th was the infamous car crash. Then a couple of weeks later, on April 15th, he turned himself into police on 8 charges, and that occurred in Dallas, where the nightclub assault also occurred in Dallas as well on May 6th, less than a month after he turned himself in. A few days later after that, we were made aware of a alleged shooting incident that occurred at SMU while Rice was still in college when he played for the Mustangs there in his college days. Those revelations weren't revealed till after the nightclub assault. And then you go back a couple weeks later on May 21st, the assault charges are dropped. The expectation, according to most people, is that Rashee Rice is looking at probably about a 6 to 8 game suspension to begin the 2024 campaign. Now, the Chiefs have enough weapons, as we mentioned, with who they've added, with the likes of Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy, that they should be fine and be able to get through that stretch, that period of time without Rashee Rice. But at the very least, it's not a good look, and you hold your team back a bit. You're not there for your teammates. Hopefully, Rashee Rice gets his act together and things turn around here, but it's not a great start to his second year in the National Football League, to say the least. What do you guys think? Is Rashee Rice sticking around in Kansas City for a while, or is this eventually going to get to a point of no return? Should the Chiefs keep Rashee Rice or not? Type Y for yes, in for no. Let us know what you think. The Chiefs Report is bringing you daily content like no one else is, with news and rumors. We're doing interactive Q&A mailbags. We'll have some watch parties throughout the season as well. We are your off-season headquarters on the Chiefs Report. Doesn't matter if I'm here or Harrison's here. We're going to find a way to bring you consistent content and keep you up to date. Anytime there's breaking news that the Chiefs make a move, whether it be a free agent signing or trade, we're going to bring you a video as quick as we can here on the channel. Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications. Never miss a moment. Lock us in. You'll be glad you did. Chris Jones is a very rich man now with the new deal that he locked up. If you recall, back at the Super Bowl parade, he made his intentions very clear that he wanted to stay in Kansas City. And then within a few weeks later, he got a massive contract. And Chris Jones is truly just one of a kind, right? They don't make them like Chris Jones. And with the retirement of Aaron Donald now, he is, without question, the best defensive tackle in the National Football League now. And think about what we were talking about this time last year, right? There was the holdout. He ultimately missed that first game against the Detroit Lions, ended up working a one-year deal last year that was, not ideal, right? And, it made things, I would say, complicated for his relationship between the front office and himself. But at the end of the day, they put their differences aside, and Chris Jones had a really good season last year with 10.5 sacks in the 16 games he played, was a pivotal role in the postseason. They wouldn't have won the Super Bowl, quite frankly, without him. Chris Jones, it was very evident after that Detroit Lions game how badly the Kansas City Chiefs needed Chris Jones and what he means for this Kansas City Chiefs team long term. I'm glad that he's sticking around. He's a pivotal piece for this organization, and I'm excited to see what he's going to do this year. I got high expectations for Chris Jones, and glad to see that he got paid. Let's go with another receiver on this list. Got to go with Skyy Moore. Skyy Moore was a guy that, if you recall, was a second-round pick just a few years ago and has done just nothing at this point in his career. He struggled to stay healthy, and now with the recent additions the Chiefs have made with Worthy and Brown, he's falling on the depth chart. And we haven't heard much good from Skyy Moore from what he's done this offseason either, to try to ease feelings, if you will, about his capabilities. And this is kind of put up or shut up time for Skyy Moore. It's not a guarantee that he even makes the 53-man roster at this point. And then if he does, how much time will he actually see on the football field? That remains to be seen as well. Skyy Moore, very disappointing at this point. He's got work to do. Not saying he can't turn it around, but his back is against the wall right now. Who is a loser from the Chiefs offseason to this point? We've gone through a couple. We got one more that we'll get to in a moment, but want to hear from you guys first. Well, in the comment section, let us know what you think. Let's turn our attention now to linebacker Drue Tranquill. I got to tell you, Drue Tranquill is a sneaky good football player, right? When you look at last season, when he was asked to step into that linebacker position with the injuries that occurred, he more than answered the call, and he was rewarded by it with a new contract this offseason that's going to keep him in town for the next 3 years. And the impact that he made in those games that he played, you're talking about 79 tackles, 4.5 sacks. That linebacker position did not miss a beat when he stepped in. And you look at his contract situation of what he got paid in his 3 years, it's not a ton of money. So it was a win-win for both the Chiefs to keep a talented player that is an impact player for their defense, but also for Tranquil to have his future locked up and to have a starting role at a championship caliber football team. I'm excited for him and think he's got some good football ahead. He's still a relatively young player, too, at this point. Last one, you probably knew this was coming as well. That is Cadarius Tony on the losers list. And Cadarius Tony, we all know what happened at the end of last year. You go back to the Bills game with the infamous penalty and everything that happened after that, and ultimately got benched and was not active for the Super Bowl. And we heard him, complain, saying, hey, I'm actually healthy, but they're not giving me an opportunity, and they still win the Super Bowl without him and all that. And think about this. That was the worst receiving core in the National Football League last year, and yet they were better off without Kadarius Toney on the field. Now, with what you've invested at this position, I just think it's Jover at this point for Kadarius Tony. You brought back Mecole Hardman as well. Remember that. Mecole Hardman, of course, had that game-winning catch in the Super Bowl here. I would think Mecole Hardman's got a much better shot to make the 53-man roster than Kadarius Tony does at this point. It was a trade that they made for Kadarius Tony that you were so desperate at the receiver position that you were willing to give it a shot, but sometimes these things don't work out. I don't blame Brett Veach for taking a chance on Kadarius Tony here for a guy that was a former high draft pick, but at the end of the day, this just hasn't been what the Chiefs have hoped for, and honestly, that's okay, and I think that they're going to count their losses, kind of just go from there. We had to talk about Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes, this guy's been everywhere, right? You see him courtside at a Mavs game. You see him in the owner's box at a Royals game. He's had a great offseason, and the fact that the Chiefs are giving him the players necessary to take that next step. Patrick Mahomes had a solid year. Not a great year last year in the regular season. Obviously, he turned things on in the postseason, but now with what the Chiefs have, when you think about that offensive line, and with the players there, the skill position players they've brought in, and the guys they've kept around, I think what you're going to see now is Patrick Mahomes get back to MVP form in 2024. We obviously know he was capable of it, but that receiving core last year held him back quite a bit. Now, if you're Patrick Mahomes, assuming you stay healthy, I mean, you got everything in front of you entering this year. He could be the MVP again. He could be a Super Bowl champion again. It is a good time to be Patrick Mahomes right now entering 2024. The last winner on this list, I got to go with Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the running back position. CEH, I know that this hasn't been a time for him where has not lived up to expectations, if we're going to be honest with you, right, for what he's done in his career for a former first-round pick out of LSU. And the idea was that he was going to be the starting running back, and we know that Patrick Mahomes specifically wanted him on his team when he was coming out of LSU. You guys know all that story, but he struggled to stay healthy, and then Isaiah Pacheco came in and beat him out. But now what's changed? Even though the Chiefs didn't pick up his fifth-year option, he did get a new contract, and his role is established. If you compare him to the rest of the depth chart, without question, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he is healthy, is the number 2 back. And with his receiving abilities, there is still a role for him. Maybe it's not what they had hoped for of being the first-round running back with the expectation of being a Pro Bowl caliber back. That's what the Chiefs wanted, but he's still around. He's still in a championship organization. Realistically, it's not going to get any better for Clyde on any organization, any situation with his talent level right now and his lack of availability than the opportunity he's still getting in Kansas City. So for me, that's why he's on this winner's list that despite all things considered, it still worked out okay for him. It could be a lot worse of the situation, the hand he's dealt. Who's a winner from the Chiefs offseason? Weigh in the comments section to let us know who comes to mind. We went through several. Obviously, there's more that we could talk about. We didn't mention Travis Kelce today, but he's always a winner in our eyes, and he's certainly winning off the field too. Let us know in that comments section who it is. If you enjoyed today's show, like the video. Let's do our part to make sure we get 3 in a row. Appreciate you joining us. I'm Tyler Jones. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next time.